Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to have everybody here. We're missing our music this morning. So I guess you got to put up with my verbal intro here. So, yeah, we can pretend the music is there, Fred. So welcome here. This is a hangout especially for solopreneurs, and we get together because we really enjoy each other's company. We like sharing information and experimentation, and some of us do a little business together now and again. So welcome here. And this morning I'm just showing my sheets, so that no, it's not sheets, it's presentation. So this morning we're going to talk about how to set up a membership site, and we have a special guest with us this morning. So I'm really happy to have Andrew here. He's been doing a membership site on Google Plus for a long time, so he's really got the berries. So there is who this success circle is for. And here is, and I while I'm just chatting about this, if anybody is watching this intro, you might like to know that it was Bill Graham who helped me put this together, and I just think it's just awesome. So there's one more little thing to come up here. So there, join us. This circle is waiting for you. So isn't that cute? So I need to stop screen sharing now. Where is it? There it is. Well, that was a little bit rough, wasn't it? So good morning. My name is Lowell Ann, and we've been doing this success circle for I don't know, it must be 2 or 3 years, isn't it, Jay? I mean, you were one of the first that came on. I think it's been a while. So anyway, we keep adding new little features and making it work. So this morning we are going to talk about how to set up a membership site. And before we get into the discussion, however, I think it would be really nice if everybody were to introduce themselves. So please do say where you are in the world and what you do, and maybe one sentence of something that's new and exciting for you. Maybe there's nothing exciting, I don't know. Anyway, I usually go in order of the people who arrived, but I think maybe what I shall do this morning is leave that, not do it that way, because Andrew was here first, and so he may want to, we'll get to him last so he can introduce himself, and then we can start our conversation. Are you okay with that, Andrew? So Jay, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Jay, and my company is Magi Studios. I help people get started in the world of online marketing, hailing from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. And today's first day back at school, so all roads are really slow coming to the office. And the
air is yellow out there.
Yeah, I know, it's very ominous first day back of school. So what's exciting for Jay? Well, we've started taking bookings for our green screen location. So we've got an office here that one of our offices that is fully green screen capable.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a little crazy in terms of how many people are wanting to book time to go in the green screen and film some videos. So it's fantastic. Yeah. So there, that's the exciting part for Jay.
Is that the same room we had our meeting in?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. And the recliner chair is still there, and it's on the other side of the room. So yeah, and the other side of the room has a white muslin backdrop, so that if anyone wanted to just not need the green screen, just wanted a white backdrop, we have that available too. So
right on.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, you're charging big bucks for the use of that, I bet.
Not at all. Only $50 per hour. So, and we supply everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's affordable.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, because you know, it's, you don't really need much time, right? Just to video, if you wanted to do a quick little intro or something like that, which is ideal for your website, is to have some sort of video, whether it be an intro or information about what it is you do or sell or something like that. So, and then you can put your, we can put your logo in the backdrop and stuff. So.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and especially for people that do what I do, coaching, it's really important for people to be able to come to come to my website and kind of see who is she and what's she like. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
it's you probably should get a bunch of coaches.
Yeah, no doubt.
A bunch of them around.
We're already booked this week and next week.
Oh.
So yeah, I sent an email to a list of mine of previous and current clients, and yeah, they're just all over it. So
perfect, right
on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was the special where I offered free coffee with the purchase of a green screen rental. So and steak knives for 2 hours. Yeah.
Right. Oh dear, that's awesome. So maybe we'll have to talk about that green screen thing at Host sometime.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jay. I'm glad you're here. And Fred, how about you? What's new with you?
What's new with me? Well, I'm Fred Jones. I'm sitting also in Victoria, actually in Sydney, which is part of the Greater Victoria area here in British Columbia. As Lola Ann said, it's pretty smoky. I'm involved with creating youth coaching online in group coaching, age range from 8 to 16 in general. And it helps young people with their leadership skills, communication skills, all the sort of soft skills they need to be successful as they enter adulthood. One of the things that I saw this week was the movie Freedom Writers. This is the one. I got it from the library, which had a couple of copies. This is about the lady, Erin Gruwell, who got the award.
Oh, yes.
What a story it is about taking 150 very disadvantaged young people in Los Angeles in the 1990s. And now it's just, what a wonderful story of how it turned their lives around. It just shows you what you can do with young people when you work with them in that way. It is a phenomenal story. What an amazing. Hilary Swank was the main.
And particularly of interest to you, given what you do, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So that's been the highlight of my week, is watching this movie.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing.
And crying. And crying when
it
was very emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I shall look on Netflix and see if I can find it. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah, Freedom Writers. It's an amazing story.
All right. Thank you. Well, happy that you're here, Fred, and love what you're doing, for sure.
Thank you.
So, Elena, is dinner ready?
Dinner is, well, luckily I'm in the house by myself today for the time being. I'm Alana. I'm over in Ireland, and I run a website, emptynesterblog.com, helping empty nesters make money online. And I also have a virtual assistant business that I run part-time as well. And I suppose my good news story is that I've been asked to attend a Women's in Business Network meeting next week, where it's basically where you have to get up and introduce yourself and tell people about your business and networking and all that. So I'm excited and nervous about that because, you know, I feel like I kind of live in under a mushroom here. So it'll be interesting for me to do this, but I have to break out of my shell.
Yes, right on. Good for you. Yeah, it is important to do things in your local community as well as online, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you do start. Well, I find I feel less isolated now that I have friends online than I used to. But
yeah.
You know, when you're a solopreneur, you can feel like you're under a mushroom. That's for sure. Yeah. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And yeah, well, we just need to tell everybody that it's supper time in Ireland. So
it is. It is. So leftovers are on the table for tonight. So that's the good news. I'm finally getting to the point where I put on leftovers on the nights that I'm going to be here so that I don't have to be torn in two directions.
Right on. I can still remember you chopping though in the kitchen. That was always kind of fun.
The multitasking does not always work.
Right on. So welcome here, Ellen. It's so nice to have you. And Heidi, I see that your avatar is up there. Are you able to come and introduce yourself? Maybe Heidi runs a guest house, and oh, she's got a message in here that if somebody came, so she had to leave for shortly. So that's good. So now, Andrew, our special guest this morning. How would you like to introduce yourself first? Tell us a little bit about what you have done and what you are doing.
Okay, my name's Andy Hatchett. I run the User to User Live group on Google+. It's basically an online help group for anything to do with Hangouts, or more particularly Hangouts on Air and anything that can be used with them. That's what I have done. Michael Daniels and I co-founded that. I'm in the process of starting a new community that I will be opening soon called How to Create and Maintain a Spam-Free Community. My big news is that this weekend I get the house to myself because my sister and niece are going away to North Carolina for Saturday and Sunday, and I can tear this entire room apart and set up my new Elgato screen. If you people haven't seen them, it's a self-supporting green screen. It's like the old projectors you can pull up from the bottom and you've got the screen, only it's green material. It's self-supporting. You just open the case, pull it up, and it stands on its own. Oh. Which means I can get rid of this thing and straps onto the back of the chair and the whole thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's
tell everybody where you are right now.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm in Hermitage, Tennessee, which is basically in Nashville. It's a cityette within a city here in Nashville.
Aha. So we all here in Canada, we all know about Nashville because of music.
Yes. Yes.
The Grand Ole Opry.
Yes, but you might be surprised to know that music is not the biggest industry in Nashville.
Oh, it's not?
No, actually printing is. Ingram.
Oh.
The Ingram Company is located here too. So actually printing and publishing is a bigger industry than the music is actually.
Isn't that interesting? Wow, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So, and I really want to thank you for rearranging a little bit today, Andrew. Andrew and he runs his user to user, his morning one, which is in the same time slot as this being your own CEO. But I get to visit him once in a while in his user to user because he does one in the evening as well. So, so I'm very happy that you were able to rearrange things and be here this morning, Andrew. That's
well, thanks for inviting me. This is a subject I really, really enjoy. Yeah.
Well, and Andrew and I've had numerous conversations about running our Google Plus community. So, but I thought it might work for us to begin first of all. I mean, before one ever starts a membership site of any kind, there are certain things that we need to think about. And so what are some of those things that we need to think about? And first of all, I might say what has been popping up for me as a solopreneur is, do I want a community or a membership site, which is what you can set a community up as a membership site. Do I want that somewhere in social media? Or do I want to figure out how to make that happen on my website? And part of me wants to do it on my website. But I haven't figured out what sort of techniques I would need and how to set that up. So in the interim, I have a community, the Being Your Own CEO community within Google Plus. I have something similar in Facebook, and it's called a group. So I've been hoping that the two would function in a similar way. So that's the first thing that pops into my mind as to where do I want to do this. Anything pop into anybody else's mind as the things that pop up first when you start to think about a membership site?
Well, I basically chose Google because I don't have a website. Of course, I'm different from most people. I'm not a solopreneur. I'm retired. Basically, this is playtime for me. Mm-hmm. I just enjoy helping people. I started the community. If I had a website, I probably would want the membership thing. Although I would on my website, but I'd find a way to link them together. Now, I'm not sure whether I'd use the link on the website and link that to the community so they could join the private Google community if they wanted to, or vice versa. Wow. There are pros and cons to doing it either way. Facebook, to me, is a foreign country that I do not have a passport for, nor do I want one. But that being said, the group on Facebook, particularly the private ones, are great. My sister runs one for the Neighborhood Watch. She does the police scanning thing, listening to and giving news about what's happening in the neighborhood, and stuff like that. But like I said, I chose Google because that was what I'm familiar with. That's where most of the people that I know are, mm-hmm. and people that are interested in the same things I am. Mm-hmm. It all depends on what you're doing, where your audience is, that goes into that type of thing. And to me, there's three things you need to figure out. You need to think, why do you want the membership group?
Yes.
What specifically is going to benefit the members of your group?
Yeah.
And what specifically are you going to get as a benefit of creating the membership group? You get the answer to those three questions, plus where you want it, you got a good foothold on getting started.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. So as a solopreneur, the reason that I want to have a community is that, we already talked about one of them is a little bit around overcoming that whole isolation thing, getting to know people, etc. The benefit to members I think have to do with the things that I like to share there, that I like to share things that I think will be of use to them, but also to give them a place to share things if they wish to, so that they get some Google juice. The benefit to the host is that people get to know who you are. They get to know, like, and trust you, and that's the first step in ever doing any business. So those would be the pieces for me. What about others, Alana and or Fred or Jay? What about you? What would, I mean, if you were going to do a community, what would you be looking at?
Yeah. So if I was looking to start a community,
Yeah.
Well, I would like simplicity of features would be one of the core elements for me. Not so much for me to use, but for my users to be able to use the tools where they just kind of log on and things are just make sense how to use them, you know? So an effective communication tool. So ideally it would start with, and in terms of a hierarchy, it would be some sort of live interaction with each other, because, and then from a time perspective, the next would be like a forum of some sort or something where they can, you know, talk and make mention of something and get a reply relatively soon. The reason why I think live chat would be a number one thing is because it does a couple things. From a marketing perspective, it will keep people on longer, like as members, because they'll build a relationship with people. That's the first place that people will go, so they can, you know, get that instant satisfaction, you know. So, you know, whether this is a paid community or a free community, personally, I would go down the route of a paid community because it's more exclusive. Also, you know, I'm not retired, so not yet, almost, but yeah. So you know, there's a bottom line there that needs to be fed. So,
Okay.
by all means, yeah. So that's my, you know, those are my kind of core things that I would want. So simplicity of use, whether that be the UX, the user experience, the design, the layout, and the simplicity of the tools. Because you want to be able to have it where people aren't kind of going like this, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right on. So I like that piece that you mentioned about a way for people to create relationships with one another, to make connections and so forth. Yeah. So, and when you mention a paid community, I'm very much aware and I'm part of a paid community that Michael Daniels and Heather Crafter do. And they're doing that within the Google Plus world.
Really?
If you were doing that, would you want it on your website, Jay, or would you prefer?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, 100%. I would not run a business, personally, I would not run a paid community on land that I don't own.
Yeah.
Because it can get taken away.
Yes. Things change.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, for example, like a Google Plus community, and I'm specifically talking about a paid membership.
Yeah.
So I would not have it as a Google Plus community or a Facebook community. It would be a private, domain-owned, hosted private community, because that's really where you want to go. And I would even just do it right at the start. I would not even say, well, I'm going to start something small and maybe do a little paid community on Facebook or Google Plus. Like, I don't know how Heather Crafter funnels or streamlines the sales process. I doubt it's automatic, but.
Oh, I can tell you how they do it. Or Andrew, I don't know, you probably know more about it than I do because you're there more often than I am. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Exactly what is the question?
Well, Jay's question was, how do Heather and Michael funnel people toward their paid community in Google Plus?
Okay, they have a weekly show that they do. And then during that show, they give a link to the paid community if you join. Then after the show is over, we have an after party, and only people who are members of that paid community get to come to the after party. But they promote that community through their weekly show. And of course, I mentioned it over in User to User because, Michael's a co-founder over there and everything. But basically, it's the show that acts as the promotion channel for the paid community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the show is free. Anybody can join. You don't.
Yeah. That's how I got into it. I think I had my system tells me when Michael Daniels posts something, so I went there, and that's kind of and my understanding is what the benefit to people who decide to be a paid member is they get more detail and support as they set up and start playing with and doing the things that they're showing people.
Yeah, usually once a month they do a hands-on hour-long demo that's just for the community members. So they have the weekly things for the after show that the community members can join, and then they get the monthly workshops. Sometimes they do 2 a month. It just depends on when they can get together. Their individual schedules should be there together.
So this is a monthly recurring membership?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that they have to manually add people to the community upon successful payment. I would, because as far as I know, there's no API, there's no code that Google provides for the Hangouts to be able to automate.
Right.
Pay for this, automatically join this community.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, the pay thing Heather takes care of, and I think she's doing it through a Patreon account.
I see.
So
I think it's PayPal.
Oh, is it PayPal? Okay,
Yeah,
because when they were talking about it, they were talking about both, and I joined, but I never even noticed which thing it went through. But yeah, because I know she's got both. So yeah, she may well be doing it through PayPal.
Yeah. So then, just knowing about the way a Google Plus community works, once you've paid, I think they get, she must get an email. She gets an email, and then she goes into the Google Plus community and puts sets up an invitation.
Yeah, Michael has just confirmed it is PayPal.
Yeah. Oh, he's watching, is he?
Apparently.
He's at work. So yeah, I mean that, and I'm not aware of anybody else who's doing a paid community within Google Plus. There may be others, but I'm not aware of any. But I'm pretty sure there probably are some over in Facebook as well. Yeah.
There are, but I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah. So I see there's a message that just popped up here from Roland. He's had technical difficulty. He said, I'll try and be there for the closing ceremony. Oh dear, we've all been having some online fun these last few days. So what about you, Fred? I mean, you're thinking of doing a number of things. If you were what are some of the factors that you would be looking at for setting up your community of young folks? Is there anything in particular that has been mentioned?
Well, I find this subject very interesting. So, because in the future, I believe it may be some coaches who want to discuss how it's working when they set up these online sessions. And then, of course, the payment, if we get to that stage, which I believe we'll ultimately get to. So this is really interesting. Now, of course, Andrew's questions why, and there are times when you want to monetize what you're doing, and that's part of the reason. And of course, you want it to be a group. I would also say the benefit to the members. I think that is probably the key question that he mentioned. And if you're not giving them benefit, they're not going to continue with the subscription based. One thing that comes to mind being in Toastmasters is how you set up those meetings. And what I mean by that is an agenda and different activities that you do during that. That's very key so they can see the benefits. So that's something that comes to mind. But the one big question I have is what tool would you actually use? Because in my understanding of Hangouts, which is relatively limited, you can only have, for example, we're using right now, you can only have 10 people in the green room. What if you want more than that? I know in Hangouts you can get more if you get to the paid. I think it's up to 30 if I'm not mistaken with the paid Hangouts. But maybe you want another tool. Maybe there's so many online tools now, anything from Zoom to GoToMeeting to and I would say, how many people would you feel would be comfortable anyway? That's a question I have. I mean, to me, 10 might be the maximum anyway. Once you start getting a lot more, then it could be a challenge. But unless you're broadcasting, and as someone said, you're just giving an educational. Well, when you're doing education, you'll want a lot more people. But then, of course, that's a broadcast, and they're not on. They're just watching. They're not involved. So those are my questions. How many people would you expect to be on this? Would they only be watching, or would they be participating? And then, what tool would you be using other than maybe Hangouts might be one answer, but it may not be. Any other thoughts? So those are my questions, really.
Well, and that's a really good one that you raise. How many do you want to accommodate? And that certainly does depend on what the format will be. If it's going to be interactive, then you probably can't handle much more than 10. I've had 12 in here in the past, and but a lot of the other things that are happening around, what we're doing, etc. There's, I mean, if you're hosting with that number of people, you need to, or at least I need to be able to focus totally on the interaction. And so that might mean that you need a wingman or a wing person to handle some of the other stuff. So it depends on, and that all comes back to what is it you're going to be doing for your members, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, there's basically, you can use the Hangouts on Air, which get you the 10 people in the film strip. You can then take that Hangout on Air and tie it. They have brought events back. You can set up your event landing page, and so anybody can watch it on that event page and leave comments below, so you can have an unlimited number of watchers. There's also Zoom, which can get you can have 100 people in there at one time, and it will show 25 people on the screen, and you can switch between the 4 screens to show all 100 people. It's a great tool. It just depends on how hard you want to work herding cats. The more people you get in, the more it's going to be hard to control, because you've got them talking over each other and everything. But if you've got a steady group that get to know each other, that tends to work itself out. If they're constantly week after week, you can tell by the way a person looks that they've got something to say, and you can call on them. And they're real good about self-policing. They two start talking at once, one of them will stop and say, no, go ahead, and it works well, And then, of course, there's some other products that allow you to have anywhere from 3 to 6 people on the screen at one time. I personally like Zoom for a free thing. For paid thing, I use Business Hangouts, which basically is the same thing on steroids as Google Hangouts, but you can do a whole lot more with it. But it depends on how you want your interaction to go, what product you want to use.
Yeah.
Can I jump in and
please
say something about that? Yeah, I think, before you decide on what tool you want to do or you want to use, I think you need to do a needs analysis of what features you want or what deliverables you want within the live presentation. Do you want to screen share? Do you want to collaborate with other people on, you know, do you want them to have webcam, you know, access, you know, a film strip? You know, do you want to have live chat, or do you want to just simply present and you know, be able to screen share and so on and so forth? Do you want to collaborate on a document all at the same time? Well, is there a max amount of people that you want to be in the film strip, and so on and so forth? You know, and I really do think that for any kind of lesson learning type of deliverable, I personally think it should be like a classroom, you presenting, everyone listening, versus you presenting and then everyone chiming in once in a while. You know, I think there's the perception you'll have more value. There'll be a better perception of value there. You know, because then people will kind of look up to the teacher and see like, wow, I'm really getting a lot of value for my money being spent here, you know. And you know, simplicity of the tool is really important, you know. So if you're just wanting to present to a bunch of people, I would go down the route of GoToWebinar, because that is the thing that I think the majority of people have used before and they're familiar with. They know they have to, you know, they know they've got that little thing in the bar, and they've got that famous woman's voice, and the, you know, their little jingle and the start and stuff. And I think Webinar Jam and the other one that Andrew mentioned, Zoom, yeah, can handle stuff like that. So, but yeah, definitely do a needs analysis. Like, get your whiteboard out and start writing down what it is you want to do, and then determine, you know, what tool. Then start going out and looking for tools. You know, and if you want to use free tools or paid tools, if you decide you're going to go down the route of paid tools, then just make sure that you're you know, factor it in your break-even analysis, right? So for your business. So.
And I think also, given Fred's client group that he's hoping, I mean, part of your research is going to be, where do they hang out? And what kinds of interactions are they the most comfortable with, and how do they interact among themselves today? Because it's going to be different from our age group for sure. Yeah, right on. So so let's think about a few other things, because I think it's, even if you're planning on having a free membership site, which is what mine is, I certainly have, and I won't go through all the issues that have arisen lately, because I think I've talked about them before, but suddenly if you've got a membership type site, you need some way to ensure that you're getting the right people in your group. And that's a little bit about, Andrew, that's what you're talking about, is how to manage, or how to have a spam-free community. And who was it? Was it you or Michael who created the concept of doing a forum and all of that? How did that come about?
We were talking about it, and Michael, as you know, is a Googleaholic. I mean, he lives, breathes, you know, drinks Google. I love him. He's big on spreadsheets. He's big on forms. He's got all his baseball forms and everything. We were talking about checking people, you know, to get into the community when we made it ask to join. And so he said, well, we could use a Google form. So we just sort of laid out the form, and he did a great job with the graphics in the background on the whole thing. And it's, you know, basically you want their first name, their last name. We ask for their Google profile page so we can see what they're doing. And there's something else that we ask for. Oh, we ask them to put a period in so we know they're not a robot, so that they fill out the form. And then they fill out the form. It comes back. On the form, I list the criteria that you have to meet. You know, you got to have a picture. You can't have any nudity or risque stuff on your profile. You know, because we've got people that have kids, and sometimes they're actually in and take part in the drawing games and stuff that we do. You know, so it's real particular. And if you don't follow that process to completion, I don't even go to look at my Ask to Join list anymore. I don't care who clicks it. I'm only interested in the people that go through and fill out the form. Those are the people that I look at their profiles and decide yes or no. You know, so, and I tell them up front, don't click the Ask to Join and expect to get in, because it just isn't going to happen. And I have had basically no spam at all. Now, granted, I've got a very small community. We do what we call a weeding process. If you don't post within a year's time, you're considered an inactive member and your name is taken off the membership rolls. We don't ban you. You can come back at any time, but we just, you know, I want to keep the figures as honest as they can be. And that's the way that I found to do it. And I haven't had a lot of kickback. Now, people with huge, large communities say, oh, well, we can't do that because, you know, we want... If you want to get rid of spam, you have to give up playing the numbers game. You can't do both. So make up your mind. Do you want quality or do you want quantity? And if you want quantity, then shut up about yelling about how bad the spam is, because you are creating the problem. And I know that's going to step on a lot of people's toes, but that's simply the fact of life from my perspective.
Well, and so what you're saying, Andrew, is it goes back to what it is that you want from the community.
Exactly.
If you want it to be interactive, where people get to know each other and learn from each other and all of that, then you almost have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I honestly don't see the value in having one of those communities with thousands of members. I really don't.
At one time, before the new Google interface, the new Google Plus interface, in the old classic interface, there was Roman, I forget his last name, but he had an app that would go through and analyze your community. It would give you the top 6 posters, the top favorite posts, and the whole thing. It was great, and you could run it on any community. You didn't even have to be a member of that community to run it.
Wasn't that Friends Plus Me?
No, this is something that was on the. It was called Community Meter was the name of the thing, and I used to run them and post them in different communities. I am a member of 80 communities. They number from Google Plus, which has millions, down to 15. You know, I found out that the greater percentage of engagement within the communities was always within the smaller one, because they'd also give you the number of active members per month. You'd have a membership thing with 1 million people. Come to find out there were 29 active members. Well, what good are all those other 999,000? You know?
Yeah.
Now, if like Michael said, you know, thousands of folks in the community is great for a foreign language community. Yes, it is, you know. But, you know, it just, most of the time, I don't see any sense in keeping one-time posters on a membership roll, you know.
Yeah. I see, I'm just looking, I see Heather is watching from outside, and she was saying some people care only about numbers so much more than quality. And what else? Arthur Moorhead is out there. Welcome, Arthur. Buddy Press and BB Press for the forums. I guess that would be what tools we were talking about.
Yeah, those are plugins for WordPress, and
right on. Because I didn't even know
yeah.
what.
So BuddyPress creates a community. bbPress creates the forum. So BuddyPress, it's like everyone will have. It's kind of like WA, you know, Wealthy Affiliate, where you'll have your own profile, and so it gives it that really good community feel. So if you ever wanted to create a paid membership in a paid community, I would go down. I think that's the path of least resistance, whether it be a free or a paid community that resides on your site, and your site is a WordPress run website.
Right on. So that would, for me, to even think about it, I mean, I would be starting at square one, like so you're saying it would be using a plugin of some sort. Yeah. Right on.
It directly integrates into WordPress, which is great, so that people can, and you can create a paywall, so where, you know, people have to pay first before creating their profile. And so it's a great tool. It's a great plugin. So yeah, I mean, I've used it in the past and works just fine.
Right on. Thank you. That's useful to know. I'm just running down through here. There are some other comments that I won't take the time to read, but I do appreciate who's out there. So how is Michael Daniels watching this? Because he's not on the VCP page. So I will. And Andrew, how did you know he was out there? You're on mute.
Hangout chat messages.
Oh.
I am rarely online that I'm not also in 2 or 3 Hangout chat messages on the side at the same time, you know, so yeah.
I always have those open as well.
Yeah.
But I got way too much going here. So Alana, what about you? Have you thought about doing a membership site of any sort? And if so, what comes up for you? What would you be asking or thinking about?
I haven't really thought about it, only because I think in order to go down that road, you have to have a certain level of expertise that I'm not confident I have yet. So I would certainly be open to that somewhere down the line. And you also have to think about, you know, your audience and what kind of people you can attract for whatever niche you happen to be in. So say, for instance, the virtual assistants niche, I wouldn't see a need to put membership thing on that site. And for my other site, emptynesterblog.com, I'm not sure at this point that it would be beneficial, but perhaps somewhere down the road, that would be something I could think about.
Right. Well, and I hear you, because I mean it all depends on who your audience is, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, I started this Hangout a long time ago because I wanted an opportunity for us all to get together and get to know each other, was my main reason, and to share what we know. So.
And I think for like the Empty Nester blog, I could perhaps eventually have some sort of a forum or chat session where people of like-minded situations could get together and chat and share information.
Yeah.
That's something I think would be very beneficial, because there's lots of people out there that are in that boat and don't really know where to turn. So that's something that I could consider. But I think I would like to make sure that I've got the audience first.
Yeah, that would be the tough part, figuring out whether you've got the audience for it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this whole interactive thing, and relationship building thing, I know it. I mean, I'm talking to the converted here. I know, but it just seems that there's so many out there who don't get that. They don't understand the value of it, I guess, or don't have the time for it, maybe.
Well, the perception of $0 is zero value, and that's very often, there's, at the end of the garage sale, there's always that free bin, right? And, and I think that's where it's at, it's a huge common perception is like, well, there's the perception of this doesn't have any value, so I'm going to give it away, but then when you turn the tables and you say, all right, well, I've got a community or I've got information that's valuable, but I want to hand it off for free, just, to build my karma or something like that. And, but then on the other end, that perception is not the same. So, oh, what great value. Oh, it's free. So there's not a huge perception. I think that's just human nature, really. But if you put a price tag behind it, then you get into the finicky thing where, well, okay, let's say if I just charge only $1 just to weed out the people, the spammers, if you will, like what Andrew's saying, then they say, well, that it's only $1, so it must not be very good content or whatever, right? And then if you price it too high, it's like, whoa, well, then I just, oh, I can't afford it. Oh, it's whatever, right? So there's like, it's a no-win situation, but pricing, you have to be, very delicate with it, and some people think that putting a 7 at the end or something like that. So yeah, it's going to work, but it really doesn't. So
a 7. So 107 or 07 or 97. Oh, cool. So Heidi, I see you're back. Have you given any thought to creating a membership site? I know that you've been looking at different models for your business lately.
I have created a website extra for delivering a course, an online course, but I haven't brought it out yet. But I have tried out membership plugins for WordPress, and now I have my first client for whom I do the website, and he will afterwards. He has a lot of people, so I'm suggesting a membership plug-in too, and I'm looking into that. And also make a question and answer. I might also come back then to the plug-in of Roland when it's the time for that. So yeah, I think it's useful when you have already people and you want to reach them. Maybe do a monthly, I don't know, some information or Q&A session or something, and you want to have it not completely free because you want to weed out the people who,
Yeah.
So, but it's good that it is behind a wall. And even if it's a free membership, but then you at least more or less who they are, and you can kick them out if it's not appropriate. And there are people who just are not appropriate. They behave in ways, I just saw it today in a Facebook group. One person overnight is doing a whole lot of, what is it? Strange videos and texts and our publicity and whatever. And until the owner of the group wakes up, that's already for hours in, So it's really, there are people out, you really should have a wall for what you're doing. Otherwise the quality might go down, and people won't go for that when they see a lot of these spamming things coming up and people who behave not properly. So for me, a membership site which is curated, like I know that Andrew is doing it, and so it's really valuable.
Well, I see that Heather says, I have seen several people who have only 100 followers try to do a membership site and then wonder why nobody is joining the community. It really requires a bunch of people to get a little quality engagement. So she's really sort of underlying that whole thing that we're talking about, is that you've got to have the audience. Yeah.
Can we quickly talk about one discussion I'd like to, I see the time, but just the process of having a cluster of free members and then bringing them to a paid feature, or having a paid feature where you have, you start out with a paid paywall and then offering some sort of upsell or more exclusive type of thing. And I just wanted to kind of get people's thoughts on more so the, once you build this free community, do you have a strategy to create a paid community, a more exclusive community, similar to what I think Heather Crafter, what someone mentioned that's what they're doing, where they offer this free, I think Andrew mentioned this, where they have this free community and then this upsell for this more of a paid community. And I just wanted to gather information or people's opinions on what are their personal thoughts on being part of a community and then being offered a paid one. Does it offend you? Is like, so.
Well, I can tell you what my reaction was to Heather and Michael's. I would be quite happy. And they I think Andrew, if I'm correct, they do their group thing as a Zoom, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So they just and it somehow or other it goes over into YouTube. So that's not a sort of a closed thing. If you happen to be following either one of them, you get an automatic notification that they've just gone live. So that's how I got there, and I attended a number of times and really thoroughly enjoyed the humor that was there, the valuable information that was being shared, all of that. But then I guess I spoke to somebody, and it might have been Bill, who said that he joined, and I asked, do you feel as though you're getting some value? And he gave a strong recommendation of a couple of things that he found in the paid community that he just loved. So and they have kept it quite affordable. So I mean, I was a little bit reluctant, but probably a lot less reluctant than I might have been, because I know like I've known those two people for online for a long time. So there was a real know, like, and trust there.
Okay. Let me make one correction.
Oh.
They are using OBS, not Zoom.
Oh.
So they Michael plays with so many tools. I always don't know the buttons that he's pushing, but it's on OBS, and then it goes to his YouTube channel. It's where the actual recordings of the shows go.
Okay.
So
that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they do the live YouTube for free, and then they give all the details of what you might get in the paid community. They also explain why they charge. And part of that is so that if they need to pay for some tool that they want to demonstrate, they've got the money to do it without being out of pocket. So I don't know. So that's my experience. I think it would be really interesting to hear everybody else say what they how they would react if you were connecting with somebody. Well, let's talk about this community. I mean, you folks are all members of this community. You come on a regular basis most of the time. How would you feel if all of a sudden I were to charge you for belonging. How would I'm guessing that would feel pretty funny after all this time.
Well, it depends on, as a panelist. I'm not sure as a panelist charging to be a part of a panelist.
No.
I think if it was a larger audience, I'd be fine with it. But in terms of, but that's just me, right? And that's just like in terms of the value. I feel I like being here to help people and to be part of the panel. And I think in terms of the deliverable and the receivable, I think I don't get as much receivable. And that's just because I've been around the block with the internet world. So
well, you know more than most of us. So.
It's not, well, yeah. It's not my first, pony show. So
it's going to be hard to provide something that you don't know already.
Yeah, call me the Cliff Clavin of internet, right?
I should say I also recognize that lots of people come to this because it's a show of support. I mean, there's always that aspect when you belong to a community. But what about any other community that you folks all belong to? Like if you belong to a community and they had some desire to move you to a paid community, how would you react? And before anybody answers, I have to acknowledge, Roland, you finally overcame your technical difficulties.
Yes, I had a distinct challenge and a test to see whether an alarm clock would go off without turning it on.
All right.
and I proved that it won't work.
You did, eh?
So the testing goes on and on. Yeah. So sorry I'm late. I'm very sorry.
Well, we're glad you made it. Okay, so anybody would like to answer that question? Fred, you're waving.
Yeah, I have to leave in the next few minutes, so I thought I'd join in. I think it's all got to do with value. If I see it's valuable and you bring it up to the next level, I've noticed people who've started with the free and then moved different levels. And as it becomes more valuable for the members, the fees go up. And they're quite happy to pay. Sometimes what we would think would be exorbitant in our world amount of money to join these groups, but then they're getting value. And that's all it is. They can see for every dollar they're putting in, they get enormous amount of value worth more than those dollars that they're putting in. Then there's no problem. Mm-hmm. And it works. And there's some people charging a lot.
And the value could be just being part of an exclusive group.
Yeah, and sharing your ideas and getting assistance. You're saying, I'm having this challenge. What can you do? And there's an element of that in your group. That's why I like being here, because some of the topics I find may not be relevant now, but they will be in the future. So I enjoy the topics that you bring up. But ultimately, when you're really in the midst of it and you can't find answers, it's all those people that are knowledgeable, they're ahead of you normally in certain areas or in that group. You can get your answers to your questions. It's valuable, and you will pay when you see that. So I'm going to have to leave. It's time for me to leave, but thank you once again. I really enjoyed being here.
Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for your valuable comments, Fred.
Thank you. For now.
So somebody else was waving. I think it was Alana. Yeah.
My response would be similar to Fred's in that, it depends on what you're getting for the money you're paying for a membership. So this particular weekly thing that we do here is a casual, it's more like a casual get together where we discuss something, and we can all kind of chime in. But with a paid membership, personally, I would expect a little more structure to it, and I would want to know what my membership is paying for, and how fresh the information is going to be, and I'd want to know that the information is going to be updated on a continuous basis to, especially in the internet world. That, I mean, because that's pretty much where I would be pointing myself to. So I would want to know that information is going to be continuously updated. Like case in point would be like Wealthy Affiliate, if I can throw that in there. You sign up and you can do a certain amount of things under a free membership, but the real value comes in buying a subscription, and that's where you get access to a lot of other stuff like videos and all that other stuff. So that's worth it to me. So that's kind of where I would come down on that.
That's a good point, that the structure piece. And the other thing that I notice about Wealthy Affiliate is that the way it happens is that it's you can take full advantage of it in your own time and in your own way. So there is that kind of flexible piece in there as well. Yeah. Roland, what about you? If you were in a free community, how would you feel about being moved over to a paid?
It's all about one simple thing. It's like, this is your show. This is your weekly show, but this is not your community. It's a part of your community. And so it's part of what you deliver. And it's an example of what you give to the internet world free, but the community will be based on a value aside from this show, inclusive of the show, but aside from this show. And if you were delivering something that people were dependent upon for new information and for the progressive thinking that keeps them up to date on something, that would provide the type of value that would be worth paying for. Mm-hmm. So as you develop the other things and the interaction that grows from the community itself, aside from this show, then you would have a paid opportunity, and you could price it accordingly. If it was worth a lot, you charge more. If it was worth something less, you would charge less. But the idea would be you would consistently give value to the entire group.
Yeah. So it all boils down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Jay, did you get an answer to your question?
Yes. Yeah, more or less. I gather people's opinions. So, yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's also if that community is so much interesting to me at that moment of my life. It might be interesting, but in that moment, I'm doing something else. And so I maybe listen every now and then, but I wouldn't join the community. It was a little bit with Susan, I'm interested in it, but it's not at the moment what I'm up to. So, when it can wait, something. I wouldn't like to pay half a year of membership without having the time and the inclination to do that. Now I have to go. I have to leave you. Okay. Because there are people on the door here. Okay.
All right. Life happens, Heidi. Way you go. So Andrew.
I'm a member of 1, 2, 3 paid things. And the way I look at it is, okay, I'm taking a membership out. Okay, I know Jay. I know what he does. If he had a paid community and I was interested in what he does and following that, I look at that monthly fee or whatever more as a retainer, where I know that I can send Jay an email or something, and because I'm a member of his paid community, I would expect to get a response quicker than somebody who was not, if that's the way he works. Well, a perfect example is Ronnie's mastery community.
Yes.
Okay? He had his Hangout Helpers, which was a totally free community, and then he had the mastery group, which was a paid community. I didn't mind paying that. I mean, Ronnie was a treasure trove.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And you know, it like I say, to me, it's a retainer. If I feel like giving you the money so that I can contact you day or night email type thing. I don't expect an immediate response, but I know that eventually you'll get to me simply because that's what you're offering me with the membership into your community, you know. So yeah, I have no qualms about being upsold, so to speak. Now that's in regard to information, you know. Products, I don't like. If I'm buying a product from you, I don't want you to try and upsell me to another product. That will turn me off quicker than anything. But that's just me and being the grumpy old man that I am about that type of thing. You know me. But yeah, I've got nothing against, you know, and people have asked me, why don't we charge for user to user? You know, because we didn't want to. Michael and I decided right at the very first that would always be free. Now the new community, Michael and Heather's community, I'm a member of that, mainly because I know what they're going to be doing with money, and it's basically for buying programs that people want us to research. It's buying programs. You ask an individual question, you get a one-on-one time. You want a problem research, they will research it and get back to you with an answer. It's that kind of thing. And so, you know, I mean, Michael's helped me with spreadsheets, you know, forever. So I know in that community, if I've got a question about spreadsheets, I can ask it in there and know I'm going to get a researched answer.
Right. So it boils back to value, but what's rolled into the value is that the person who's running that membership, I mean, has to know a lot more than you do.
Yeah.
You have to feel as though you're going to get something that you haven't got already.
Right.
Right on. Well, I feel as though we could talk again about how to set a membership community or a membership thing on your website. I would be very interesting to see a little bit more about that. So suddenly my my Hangout text came up in the middle of my screen, unbeknownst to me. Where did that come from? So I think we've gone way over, but that happens on occasion around here. We do get involved in what we wanted to talk about. Just before I share screen and move us into doing the outro, does anybody have anything, any parting shot that they feel as though they would like to share with everybody before we close? Anything come up for anybody?
I'd just like to say, know what you want to deliver before you start investing time into, you know, like looking at Zoom or Google Hangouts and you know, my professional opinion is to run your business on your land versus leased land. You know, at least if it's going to be a paid thing where it's going to, that money that's coming in from the paid membership is, you know, your bread and butter.
Absolutely. So that's a really good reminder for us to all end on. So now I am going to put up my outro, and Roland, if you would like to